Hey, Neil McDonnell here. Welcome to another LinkedIn Live. If you're showing up early, I appreciate it. I'm going to be waiting a second as people join, as LinkedIn puts out the notice that, hey, Neil's live. So I'm going to get started in a few minutes about my thoughts today about going in and communicating that you're small, et cetera. But before I did, I just wanted to maybe focus on a couple other tips for those of you who get here early. One of the things that I keep pushing is that LinkedIn is the social media platform that you should be on in the business world if you're business to government, if you're selling to the federal government. There's Twitter, there's Facebook. Those are not professional platforms. And it'd be fun to have a lively debate with people. But despite the government having some presence on Facebook, as an example, anybody who's in the serious business side, on the professional side, the B2G or the B2B even, we don't play in Facebook, right? And Twitter is this binge watching of social media. But LinkedIn is the professional network where I'm communicating to people who I am professionally. What's my background? I don't talk about in there about my kids or my camping trip or whatever, right? In here, I'm talking about what I do. And anybody who wants to connect with me on a professional or business way can come in and connect with me. And it's the same way with millions and millions of people who are in the federal government market, those of us on the industry side as well as the government side. And so I'm always advocating get in on LinkedIn. And if I give you a quick example, as we're waiting for everybody to come in, on why I think LinkedIn is such a good place to really get your presence going and the place where your marketing efforts will find the best return on investment. Just this morning, Paul Puckett, and I don't know if any of you guys know this guy, but I think his title is like Director of Enterprise Cloud. So basically he heads up the Army cloud. Underneath the Office of the Chief Information Officer in the Army. So he's the top cloud guy in the Army. And today he put out an hour video where he's talking about Army cloud modernization, if I remember it correctly. But basically, this is a buyer, a person who's absolutely on some level or another influencing the buying that happens at the Army level. So not everywhere across the Army, but at the top. He influences anything that's on the Army cloud side, including understanding the challenges the Army is facing, right, as he interacts with his peers across the various commands, major commands on the Army, as well as the other services. But so he's putting out his thoughts. This is the place to go in and learn about what their challenges are, what their goals are. And he's doing that right here on LinkedIn. You have the ability to watch the video content he's putting out. You have the ability to engage him about that content, right? You don't want to go in and just spam him and try to sell him on something. But when you see something that's interesting and you want to explore it on that hour video, it's perfectly normal in LinkedIn to put something like that in the comments about, hey, it was great. I especially like this portion where you dive into this. I'm curious about this or something. That's a way to engage people on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn loves it because you're engaged in the content. So they'll push this content out further, but also people who post content, whether it's me or Paul, we like it when people engage. And so I definitely encourage you to engage in content. And if you're just joining me, I'm just telling you that we're going to get started with this LinkedIn Live where my focus is don't tell people that you're a small business. And I'll dive into that in 1 second. But I was dropping that quick tip. I'm going to get started actually now because we're 2 minutes in and I just gave a quick LinkedIn tip. But for those of you showing up early, I want to say the same thing again because I'm able to keep handling it at this bandwidth. If you want to direct message me today only, right? So if you're showing up live, I want to say thank you by saying direct message me with your top challenge, your top question, whatever it is. If you've got a bottleneck and you wish you could have somebody with 30 years of experience on your team for a second to answer your question, I'll be happy to answer one and try to help you with one question, one intro, whatever it is, as a way of just saying thank you very much. So for those of you just joining, if you haven't really been tracking on me before, I'm Neil McDonnell. I've spent 20 years in the GovCon space as a small business owner, successful companies, and now I run the GovCon Chamber of Commerce as a nonprofit to just help people out there. And these LinkedIn Lives every day from 12 to 12:30 East Coast time are focused on really sales. How do I help you with any kind of training, tips, et cetera, that lead to more revenue? I'm not trying to teach about the FAR. I'm not trying to teach about all these other policy-related stuff. Most of us want to figure out how do we get more money because that's the elusive part. It's pretty easy for me to figure out how to be compliant with the FAR, but it's less easy for me to figure out how do I get in the door, how do I meet new government buyers, et cetera. So that's what I want to talk with you today about. Before I get started, hey, Deborah, thanks for putting the chat in there. The rest of you, if you would put a chat in, that's good for two reasons. One is it lets me know who you are, lets others know who you are. So maybe your company name and what your core competency and what competency is, that would be great. And it's funny, I do recognize that I talk fast, but I think I talk fast because I got so much to share in 30 minutes and I want to get to it. But anyways, put a comment in. The second reason those comments are really helpful, and give me some thumbs up too, just so I know you're out there and you're listening, but also this is engagement. LinkedIn, if you're not familiar with this, as they see the comments, as they see LinkedIn likes or thumbs up, they will push this content out further to other people. And that's good. It's just good for those of us in the industry and the government people who are attending today to push this out further. And if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on a podcast that I have out there, give it a thumbs up, put a comment in, tell us who you are. Even after the fact, it'd be good to hear from you. So let's get started with today's topic. I'm just going to go to I got some cheat sheet notes here. I'm doing live every day. I need to just make sure I'm staying a little bit focused. But here's the topic I wanted to talk about today, right? Is sometimes we go in and we're encouraged to talk about we're small businesses. Hey, I'm Neil McDonnell from Business 101, and I'm a small business. I'm a veteran-owned small business. I'm in the government space as a small business. No one cares. No buyer in their right mind cares that you're a small business. Nobody cares that you're a woman-owned business, a minority-owned business, a veteran-owned business, service-disabled, HUBZone. It's really important to get this fact solidly in your head, right? They would love to support vets. They would love to support women. But buyers and large primes are basically buyers when you sub under them, and even other small primes, right? They only buy from you when you can help them with their mission. And so it's really important when you're going in to think in your mind about how can I help with the mission? And I'm going to talk in a minute about how do you promote your tags, is what we call them, right? Like HUBZone. There's a way to do that properly, because as much as people, me included, tell you not to shout about your tags, the reality is people will then want to know what they are. What they don't like is when you lead with your tags. But anyways, one of the things I was thinking about as I was preparing for today's talk is that we hear this line about don't judge a book by its cover, right? So don't look at somebody and sum them up without even talking to them. There's a line out there about, first impressions are everything, or don't make a bad first impression. I don't actually believe in first impressions. I believe that you can come back and fix first impressions as long as you didn't just do them harm and you just tripped and stumbled over your words or something. It's like, whatever, come back the next time and you can do better. But judging a book by its cover is something that the people you will go meet do when they're looking at you and when they're talking to you from the very minute you're walking in. It could be something as just, how you're dressed. For example, I pretty much have stopped wearing ties, but when I go to a meeting, I got a sports coat on, a collared shirt. So I look like, professional in the IT white collar space or something, right? And so I'm put together that way. And it's like, okay, I passed that little checklist. What I want you to do, and the whole purpose of today's chat, is I want you to think about expressing yourself and communicating your value by your core competencies. Your value is not that you're a woman-owned business. Doesn't matter at all. It doesn't help with the mission. Your value is that you're really good at ServiceNow, or you're really good at construction and building up hospitals or something. That's your value. The fact that you're a woman-owned business is just a program that the SBA has, right? But any of you who are a small business know that no one's throwing you business because you're a HUBZone firm. No one's going, oh my God, you're a HUBZone business? Let me give you business. And so if you know that's the case, then lead with the value you bring, lead with your expertise. When you do that, and going back to judging a book by its cover, now they're starting to look at you, whoever you're meeting with, right? Whether it's an agency or a large prime, now they're starting to look at you as a subject matter expert. If you're in business, there's a pretty good chance that you're an expert at what you do. For example, my companies were, the first one was IT and it was network engineering. We were experts at that. And the second one was Microsoft SharePoint. And wherever we went, when I walked in and my team walked in, people knew we knew what we were talking about because we were talking about SharePoint at a much higher level. We knew what their challenges are even before they could communicate it. And so our conversations quickly went from, oh, you're a 20-person company, you're a 50-person company, to, oh my God, you're the people who can help us solve our challenges. And so when you think about it, you want to be thinking in your head, I'm trying to communicate that I'm a subject matter expert and I can help with the mission. I'm not a small business. When you go in, one of the things about focusing on your subject matter expertise is it allows you to control the meeting. If you go in as a small business, basically, I feel like it's you subordinating yourself, in this case, particularly to the large primes. Oh, I'm so thankful that you're talking to me. It's like, why are you thankful that they're talking to you? You know, Booz Allen, Boeing should be happy that you're talking to them, or they're talking to you, right? They should be happy you're coming to them. They should be happy that they've found a company with your expertise. Many of you come with 20 years of experience already, right? You have extensive experience in environmental science or in janitorial services, whatever it is, you're experts at it. You can solve their mission. And when you talk about it, you begin to control the meeting, and not in a dominant way, but just in a way that the meeting now begins to be about the work that needs to be done, the mission the government agency has, that the large primes are trying to solve, or the agency needs you to solve. And so, as you move forward on that, you need to be able to communicate that you have as much experience, if not more, than the large prime you're talking to or the federal agency. It's rare that you don't have more experience than the federal agency. I know those guys, some of them have been in jobs for 30 years. But if you're a business and let's say you're 10, 20 people or more, then you probably have good experience across multiple customer bases, maybe commercial and federal, certainly across a couple of different federal. Well, one person in a job for 30 years doesn't have that same experience. And so they intimately know their agency, but they don't really know the subject as well as you do. And so being able to bring that experience to these folks is important. And I think it's your responsibility to get them to see you as that subject matter expert. And I say this softly, right? But you're not doing your job and you're not helping them if the conversation is around whether you're a woman-owned business or a veteran-owned business. In order to solve their challenges, to achieve their goals, you and they need to be talking about the mission, need to be talking about the scope of work they're trying to accomplish. And when you do that, now you're able to talk about problems, talk about possible solutions, begin to vet it through. And that's really important. A couple of just flags for you to pay attention to. And I'm going to try to switch over here to chat because I want to hear what your thoughts are on this and some questions on there. But one of the things going with these tags, and I'm going to push this a little bit every time, is don't go in looking for something, right? When you go into any meeting, of course, there should be an objective, some successful measurement that moves the sale forward. But it shouldn't be a sale. It shouldn't be gimme, gimme, gimme. It should be, how do I move us forward? The buyer and the seller should move forward together. It shouldn't be one or the other because that's win-lose on either side. But win-win means we are moving the sale forward. The buyer wants to buy, hopefully from you, and you want to sell, especially them, right? And so going into a meeting, you need to make sure there's an objective you're getting out of it. But that's different than looking for a handout. You're going to see me interview a lot more people again. And I've done this in the years past, but I want to do it again and again and again so that you meet larges and you meet agency buyers who will say, we don't like it when small businesses walk in with their hand out. Hey, you should give us some money because you've got an SDVO number that you're not hitting, right? And you're $1 billion firm. You should give it to us. You're a federal agency. You only did 1% last year. Who cares? It's not about the mission, right? The other thing is don't lead with your tags. I talk about that. I do want to say that you can lead with the tags on your paper. So on your capability statement, you can put an 8A logo or a vet logo, et cetera, on there. And when somebody gets your statement, they're going to read it and instantly they're going to go, oh, this is a HUBZone firm. It's fine if your paper screams it. It's not fine if you scream it, right? Because if you're screaming, you're saying, I deserve the money. If it's on the paper, it's just saying, oh, by the way, we're HUBZone, and that will count towards your numbers and blah, 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 blah. So it says that whole thing that I'm telling you not to say with just a single logo. The other thing is, as you move forward, you need to understand what are the buyers and the larges thinking in particular. So let's take larges. When you walk into a large, their first concern is risk. Larges have been around for decades, and they've learned that sometimes, unfortunately, they bring on small businesses onto their team for something, and the small businesses end up increasing the risk of the project. Either they just do a bad job on it, or they they do a bad job, or they don't hire the people they say. It's what I describe as increasing the risk to the large. They have to babysit the small. They have to hire the people for the small because they didn't do it themselves. They have to rework work that's being done. And imagine what that's like, right? Imagine you, and depending on where you're at in your life, but imagine you bring in a cleaning crew to clean your house because you don't feel like cleaning it. And then how would you feel if when they left, you had to go around and actually do some cleaning behind them because it wasn't done right? They didn't put things back the way they should be. They didn't actually clean stuff, whatever it was, left things sitting around, left chemicals out that maybe your kid's going to come in and accidentally touch. You would be bothered by that at the least. And me, I would feel like it was a bad investment. It was a waste of my time to spend money on that cleaning crew when they didn't do the job I expected. Well, that's what larges feel. And we need to understand what they feel first, right? Respect that they're worried about the risk. And then going with that, we need to show them how the risk is completely minimized when they come with you. In fact, you're not going to have a risk when you come with me. You're going to have an increased chance of success of delivering on this contract that you have right now. Plus, you'll have a chance of getting more work because we will come in and make you look so good. And we will be integrated into your team so that your team feels like we're just part of your company. They won't even realize we're a separate company necessarily. So, having that way of looking at it of how do I increase value through this relationship compared to how do I increase risk, which is what they're afraid of. On the government side, they're concerned about, can you do the work, right? So a lot of us go in and we want to get a contract with the federal government, a prime contract. And the contracting officers have been doing this long enough that sometimes they'll be much more open to working with small businesses, newer small businesses. But when you get to the program office, now you're getting back to the same concern. A program office are the people who are responsible for doing the work. The contracting officers do not do the work, right? When they're buying for somebody to come in and build a new hospital or building, or they're coming in to buy somebody or to hire, to contract with you to build an application, they don't have any of the concern. That's the program office's job. Contracting officer is just making it happen. But the program office is worried about, am I going to spend 6 to 12 months doing application development and find out at the end it doesn't work, or it's not compatible with our systems, or the user adoption doesn't happen, or the migration of the content we expect to happen. On a hospital, am I going to find it's going to be double the budget as we get through? Whatever it is, they're worried about how can we accomplish the project at hand and the mission at hand, right? The project is in support of their mission. And so a hospital, if they're looking to create a new wing, a new building, it's to support the veterans and the health care of the veterans, let's say in the VA. They need to know that what you build will be able to help them accomplish the mission. And so they have that same fear. Are you going to increase the risk? And are you going to require us to take on a lot of extra responsibility that we don't want as a buyer? Or are you going to help us with the mission? And you need to be able to communicate that. Coming in and talking about you're a small business doesn't help anybody. Coming in and saying, here's where we're an expert. Here's how we can help you grow. You will find your conversations instantly go to the work. More opportunities will come to you because people will realize that you're the experts in this space. Whether it's HVACs or software development, people will look to you as the experts. There's a whole nother video I'm going to do on how do you show that you're an expert through social media. But basically, it's something similar to what I'm doing. Begin to talk about what you do and let people learn through your content that's out there, and they will have social proof. That's what this is called, social proof that you're an expert. But then when you go in and you're talking to them, you're talking about the mission. So I'm looking at one last thing. So I want to look at the chats and see if there's any chat messages here on this. But the whole point, just as a reminder, the whole point of this, and I'm looking at my chat right here, but the whole point of this live session topic that I had today is I want to encourage you to stop saying you're a small business. I used to say, and you can feel free to borrow this, we're a $1 billion company, revenues not yet recognized. We're a $1 billion company, revenues not yet recognized. It means we haven't got the money yet. And the reason I would say that is to remind our team that we don't want to operate like a small corner grocery store. We want to operate like the Booz Allens and the Boeings, et cetera, right? They're a $1 billion company with mature processes, with a mature relationship with their customers, with a solid understanding of their core competencies. That's what we want to do. And we can't do everything that they do, but we can do one thing very well. And so that line always helped us remember it. Just looking at this stuff. Good morning, and thanks for those of you who put your stuff in here. Just looking to see if there's any questions. If you got any questions, or if you got any comments, your experience on what you've run into, I'd be curious. Here's an IT field services. Hey, Anthony. Oh, hey, Anthony. IT networks. It's hard sometimes for me to look at the chat. Lead data science. Okay, gotcha. What's the best way to promote your company to contracting officers from agencies you want to sell to? So the question here is, what's the best way to promote yourself to contracting officers that you want to buy from and that you're not selling to, I'm assuming right now, and you have no relationship? The first thing is to understand that there's three type of people with three roles within the federal government primarily, right? You got contracting officers, who are the money people to buying. You got small business professionals, who are the liaison. They try to help you navigate and help government find you. And then you have the program office, people who actually do the work. And so the contracting officer, it's less about the requirements. And if it's just an introduction you're asking for, what's the best way to promote yourself? What I would recommend, because I can't tell you everything, right? I'm going to write that down. I'll just take it as a whole live session. But one that I like is go into USA Spending and look at the last 2 fiscal years, not this one, but the 2 previous ones, and find a contract in the agency that you want to be in that's around the same work that you want. And now you've got names for the contracting officer. And what I would do is I would be calling, obviously, try to schedule a meeting. I never, ever talk to somebody when I first reach them. I said, can I schedule a meeting? And you can watch a video where I talk about that whole process. I'm building relationships. But this idea of calling the contracting officer, asking if you can quickly introduce yourself. 15 minutes is more than enough. If you get more than that, that's fine, but you should be able to do your introduction and a question in 15 minutes, which is a great start to a relationship, which builds on. So anyways, if I call the KO, I would be saying that I'd like to briefly introduce, and then I'd like to ask a couple of quick questions about a contract that was awarded previously. And to talk about it, you're saying the best way to promote your company to KOs from agencies you want to sell to. That's the primary way. The other way is reach out to small business professionals in that agency and ask, just make sure they know who you are. I did a whole session, I think, last week, or I might have done on a different video, but it talks about how do you build relationships with small business professionals. And by the way, let me just do a quick plug for the GovCon Chamber's free directory of small business professionals in the federal government. It's a whole directory, 1,000+ people. Go in there and you'll find a lot of good names. So just coming down really quick, got some folks from New York. Thanks for joining. Tree services. So this is what I love, by the way. I really appreciate the fact that what we're trying to build here is the ability to help you sell, whether you're doing tree services or whether you're doing IT and cyber, or whether you're in construction or even manufacturing. And I like the fact that you guys introduce yourself. Thank you so much. It helps people understand. Hey, Kevin, William, thank you for the positive energy supporting. Appreciate that. Bill Cahalan. Check out that link. Good afternoon, founder. Hey, Deborah. By the way, Deborah makes a good point. Let's connect. Let me give you a piece of advice. I saw somebody do this video today or something really recently that said, don't connect with everybody or something. I disagree. And you can come to my LinkedIn course and learn about that, but I'll dump everything from the LinkedIn course here in different stages if you want. But connecting with somebody is not the problem. What I do, and I've got good at this, is I connect with anybody and now I've actually constrained it into a tighter group, but I connect with anybody who wants to connect with me, and it's fine. And then in my feed, if I see you posting stuff that I just have no interest in, and generally, let's say somebody's talking about their opinions, not in the professional world, but stuff that I believe is more Facebooky. If I see that, I'm not going to no longer be connected to them. LinkedIn allows you to unfollow them. So I no longer see your stuff, but you see mine. That's very important, because if you're posting content on LinkedIn, you want people to see your content. So don't shoot yourself in the foot by, disconnecting. Just stop looking at their stuff, and you'll be fine. If they have a lot of connections, LinkedIn will, their algorithms, all this stuff will just keep sending your content farther, and they'll give you a tool to stop you from having to get stuck with theirs. Thanks for that question. That was great. I got lost here. So, Deborah's point though, connecting. If you're on here, I'm going to reach out to you and connect to you. It seems like we should be a natural connection. You like the topic. I'd like to learn more about your businesses and pay attention. So it's a natural connection. I'm going to do that. But I would encourage you to look on LinkedIn right now and see who's on, and think about connecting. At the very least, connect with the folks who are similar business. And if somebody connects with you, accept it. Later on, just unfollow them if it turns out it was a bad connection. Err on the side of they'll be good rather than err on the side that they're no good. Okay, so there's good content here. I appreciate that. Advocate for the homeless, civilians, and veterans. That's awesome. I gotta look more at that. So iSoft, audio visual, and thank you. Appreciate it, Leon. Best to start a conversation with the deputy for small business. So David's talking about starting a deputy of small business. It's a different title. It might be different places, but if I'm following it correctly, if you think about the Navy as an example, they have a lot of deputies of small business, like at Crane, Indiana, for the Naval Surface Warfare Center or the other surface warfare centers. Great advice there, David. Thank you. And then I provide business development and marketing services. There you go. All across the world, it looks like. Hey, and I am the deputy. So there you go. You're getting advice, folks, from David, who is the person who's saying best to start with people like him, and he will help you navigate. I think that goes right back to that question about how do I start getting into an agency or having conversations with KO. People like David will also give you advice on how to be prepared to have successful meetings going forward. So thanks, David, for being in and for commenting in there. I'm going to wrap up here because I think I'm almost at my time, and I want to always respect that 12 to 12:30 range. So if there's any other questions, go ahead and put them in. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching after the fact on LinkedIn or you want listening to it on the podcast, give it some engagement. Definitely put your name and core competency, et cetera, in the comments, because it helps more people see it. And it also helps me see who you are. And I'd like to be able to be more actively aware and connected with each of you. Again, if you haven't, give it a thumbs up, because when you do, LinkedIn will push this today's session out to more people on LinkedIn, which just allows more people to learn from me, learn from people like David and others. So there you go. Some last minute comments there, which is perfect. I'm going to wrap up. I just wanted to remind you that if you haven't got our directories, go to the govconchamber.com website. And on there, we have free directories that are available. You'll also see a new webinar that I posted out there. It's an advanced webinar on starting and building relationships, but you'll see that there. Get the directories though. Those are really, really helpful. And David, let me know if I got any of the data messed up, because we're doing April's release. Government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Coming to events like this and having these conversations is part of the process. Have a great day.